Okay, good morning. Let's begin. We're at the very top of 5A in Bava Metzia. So we're continuing to deal with the discussion of Rav Sheshes and Rav Chisda. Recall that Rav Sheshes says in the case of Halach, where you it either means to actually give back the item that is being disputed. So Rav Shesha says if you have a split claim and you say halach about part of it, then then you don't have to make a shvua, you don't have to swear. So Gemara says, according to that view, that when you say halach, when you present the item of the modem mixus of the partial admission, you don't have to swear. Why do you need to have a pasuk that we saw yesterday? That you need a pasuk that the Gemara has in Shuas has a pasuk that tells us that you don't need a shua regarding land because land, we're assuming land is considered like halach because it's always there, right? So if halach is pater, what do you need a pasuk to tell you that there's no shua for karka for mod mixus because karka is like halach? Amalach, so Sheshes would say, when you need a pasuk when you have destroyed the land, essentially you've dug ditches in it, right? You've made it unusable. So in that case, we might think that that's not like a case of halach because the land is no longer usable as land. So that's why the pasuk you might think so. So that's why the pasuk you need a pasuk to tell you even in such a case, karka is like halach, and that there's no shua according to Rav Sheshes view. Inami, or you can answer hecha ditano kelim v'karkos. You know, you need a pasuk when someone is demanding from you that you owe him both movable objects and real estate, and you admit to the kelim, you admit to the movable objects, but not to the real estate. Right. So in that case, there's no halach because halach only applies automatically to the karka part. So in that case, the Torah tells you that since karka is involved in the mikzah situation, that you're still potter. Okay, so we still have this debate, right, between Rosh Hashanah and I'm sorry, was it Rav Chia? Rav Chia, about is that the case? Is when you have halach of a mother b'mikzas, are you potter from a shvur or not? Tashma, let's prove it. The Tani Rami Bar Rami Bar Chama taught as follows: Arba shomer tzrichen kira b'mikzas v'hoda b'mikzas. The four shomrim. Remember, there's four types of shomrim of watchmen. One is shomer chinam, does it for free. Shomer sachar does it for pay. Socher is someone who rents from you, and shoel someone who borrows from you. So these four shomrim need in order to become liable to take a shvua, there has to be kfir b'mikzas v'hodam b'mikzas, denying part of the claim and admitting to part of the claim. Shomer chinam, shoel, nosi, sachar, socher. These four types of shmira. So what are we talking about in this brisa? Lav diyamar le halach. Are we not talking about a case of halach where you're saying I owe you part of what you're claiming, and here it is. So doesn't that show that? So and what do we say that you do take a shvua? So doesn't that prove that you take a shvua in such a case? Versus not necessarily. Generally, gimel paras masarti lacha. We're talking about a case. Could be talking about a case where there's 3 cows, right? Or is demanding 3 cows. I gave you 3 cows. I claim I gave you 3 cows to watch. And and you're not giving me back any cows, you're responsible for them. You didn't watch them properly. My claim is you owe me all 3 cows because they all died from your negligence. But the Shomer says, first of all, there were never 3 cows, there were only 2 cows. Okay. Second of all, and yes, they both died, but one was an accident, not my fault. Right, and if it's not my fault, it's an accident, and honest, then I'm not responsible. Yes, one of the cows died because of my negligence. To be ina shalumelech, and I have to pay for that one. To love helachu, that's not a case of helach, right? That's just talking about a case where you're arguing over, the cows. I mean, they're all dead, right? So So that could be the case of the shomer that Rami Bar Chama's brisa was dealing with. In that case, he says it's kind of like it's that there's still a partial denial and part admission of responsibility, but it's not necessarily a case of halach. Toshma. Now we're going back to Rav Chia's first law. Okay, his first ruling was that if the claim is partly supported by, or part of the claim is supported by witnesses, then that's like a motive mixus. Usually, classically, motive mixus is I admit to part of your claim, but if I deny your claim, but witnesses establish part of my claim, then that Rav Chia says that's like motive mixus. We treat it the same way. Tashma, let's prove it. Derabi Aptoriki, Derabi Chia Kamaisa. So the father of Rabbi Tariki taught he taught about this first halakha of Rabbi Chia, and here's the case he gave. Somebody says you owe me $100. No, I don't owe you nothing. And witnesses say that yes, he owes you $50. That's a partial part of the demand. You might think that you make a shvu on the rest, right? And that would be just like a motive mixas, right? So the Torah says otherwise. I'll call Aveda Sheomar Kihuzeh. We're comparing it now to an Aveda, a lost object. Al Hadas Pivatamachaivo. So when the Torah says you're responsible for any loss, when you says Kihuzeh, that you can say that this is what I owe you. So Al Hadas Pivatamachaivo. So it's keying off the way the pasuk is phrased, Asher Yomar, that you say that yes, this is what I owe you. So it referring that this brisa claims that the Torah is referring to an admission of modim mixas. But it would not apply when you're not the one that's saying I owe you. So that would appear to negate what Rav Chisda's view, right? Rav Chisda says that if you establish a partial claim through witnesses, that you take a shua for the other half, and this one seems to say no. So Masnisa Karami Salit Rav Chia. So where it says, "Oh, you're asking on Rav Chia from a Mishnah." Rav Chia Tanu Palik. Rav Chia doesn't have to listen to the Mishnah. Rav Chia is of a status that he's like a Tana. He was in the earliest generation of Amoraim, or the kind of the in-between generation between Tanaim and Amoraim. So he has the status that he has authority the same as this other Mishnah. So you're asking from him. You're asking on him from a Mishnah. Okay, he had a different view, as if he had another Mishnah. But wait, but this Mishnah quoted a verse in the Torah, right? So you have to have some kind of other verse to counteract that. If I prove to you something from a verse in the Torah, you can't just say no, that's not the case, even if you are a Tana. So the answer is Hahu Lamadam Mixas Hatana. According to Rav Chia, that pasuk in the Torah would be teaching you the basic law of modem mixas. So, like, why does that Mishnah? Why does it not understand that as being the basic modem mixas? He would say ksiv that because of the extra word in the pasuk Asher Yomar ki huzeh. When you say this is it, this is what I owe you. And it uses two words, who and that. One teaches you the basic law of modern mixas, it takes a shvua. The other teaches you that the modern mixas shvua only counts when you admit by yourself, and not when witnesses establish the partial claim. V'idach. So what would Rabbi Chia say? Why does it use both words ki hu zeh? Chad l'modim miksas hatana, chad l'modim mimin hatana. He says, yeah, you know why the Torah is telling about you two cases? One is to establish the idea of modim b'miksas, that you take a shua, and the other is that the admission has to be similar to the claim. Um, so um, so in other words, if I claim, you owe me 100 bushels of wheat, and you say I only owe you 50, and anyway it was barley. So that would be not a motive mixus. That would be denying the whole claim and admitting to a different claim. And that's what you get from the extra who or zeh. So what would Rabbi Apotki, the father of Rabbi Apotki, say? What would our Mishnah say? Modem minatana leisle. He doesn't have that rule, right? He says there is no such rule. This pasuk is only telling you about modem mixus, and there is no such differentiation between that you have to admit to your admission has to be similar to the original claim. Several like Rabban Gamliel, and this accords with Rabban Gamliel. It's not Tana chitin v'holo b'sarin patur. If I demand you owe me bushels of wheat, and you say, well, I owe you, but it's barley, not wheat, patur, then there's no shvua. Rabban Gamliel would hold like the Mishnah that we were bringing, that you are chayiv and a shvua. There's no distinction between min hatana or not min hatana. Okay, now we're going to get to some case law. Raya, there was a shepherd. Every day they would give him sheep to look after, and there would be witnesses that witness that, we're giving you 100 sheep to look after today. One day there were no witnesses. They gave him the sheep anyway. So he comes and says, you never gave me any sheep today. But then witnesses came and said, not that he accepted the sheep, but that he had consumed two sheep that day. Okay. So Amar Rabbi Zera, and I guess the testimony must have been that they were identifiable as sheep of the original owners, right? Not the shepherd's own sheep, but the fact that he consumed two sheep, that they were other people's sheep. So Amar Rabbi Zera, if Rav Chia is correct, mishtaba ashara, then this is a motive mixus established by witnesses, and he has to make a shua for the other animals, for the other 98. So Abaye says, if that's the case, so Hagazon, wait a second. So is he not considered a gazlan, right? A thief, because now the testimony of the witnesses establishes him as a liar, right? Or as a thief. And if he's a thief, then we don't make a thief take an oath because we don't trust him. We assume that if we make him take an oath, he'll just as soon take a false oath, and we don't want to do that. So Rabbi Zera answers, Shekenegdo Kamina. I don't mean that the shepherd takes the oath, it's the owner that takes the oath. The owner says, besides those two sheep, we also gave you 98 sheep today. We take a shvu on that, and then you're responsible. So in that case, who's taking the shvuah? Not the sheep stealer, but the owners who are presumably reliable and can be made to take a shvuah, a trustworthy shvuah. So now the Gemara asks, so if you're going to say that Rav Chia is incorrect and that motive makes a partial claim that's established by Eidim, there's no shvuah, Rav Nachman. Okay, fine, but what about Rav Nachman's idea? What is Rav Nachman's idea? I say, you owe me $100. And you say, no, I don't. No shvuah. Rav Nachman says, Mashmino, so shvuas hesings. You do have to take a shvuah, not the classic shvuah that the Torah requires to establish a fact that's in dispute, but this is called a shvuas hesing, which he translates here as an oath of incitement, right? In other words, we're trying to get you to confess, right? We're going to hold this threat of a shvuah over you to get you to confess. So this is Rav Nachman's idea. So according to Rav Nachman, you would still, even if Rav Chia is and even besides Rav Chia, who wants to establish the moda b'miktzas shvua to a case of edim, even besides that, we already have Rav Nachman's ruling, who says that that there is such a thing as a shvuas hesed. So if there's money that is in dispute, then we and even if there's no classic need for a classic shvua, we still establish a shvua or enforce a shvua in order to get people to, to make people kind of worried about making frivolous claims. So more answers. Well, Rav Nachman, Takantehi. The shvua of Rav Nachman is not a classic shvua. It's a rabbinic shvua, right? It's a takana. The takanta law of Dina. So you don't apply that to a completely different case. Rav Nachman, said in this case we'll do a shvuas hases, which is a takana. But let's not take that further. Let's not apply that to some other kind of situation. Okay, so then we only have Rav Chia, Rav Chia's idea that would make you pater from a shvua. So the Gemara says, okay, so you're talking about people who are not trustworthy. Well, what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a shepherd. The Amar says, Stamra apostle. Shepherds are not trustworthy, right? The idea was that shepherds were suspected of grazing their animals in other people's property, which is theft. So in general, we don't trust a shepherd to make a shvua. So you can't prove from the case of shepherds that Rav Chia is right, that there's no obligation for a shvua in this case, because the reason you say, why that in that case there's no shvua? Because they're shepherds. We don't let shepherds take a shvua. Where says Lokasha, Hadidei, Hadiyama. When shepherds are not trustworthy for their own sheep, right? But if it's other people's sheep that they're looking after, then there's no reason to suspect that they're going to steal from others, right? There's no benefit to that. So we would not suspect shepherds of other people's sheep, and therefore the fact that we say there's no shvua will accord with Rav Chia.
So this would mean that the sons of Yaakov were not kosher Edom.
Sons of Yaakov were not, because they were shepherding their own sheep.
They were all shepherds, and they even tell Paro that they were.
Okay.
After all of the rabbinic mitzvot were observed in the time of the Avot, right?
Of course, with great specificity. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Well, in fact, and in fact, we see that they gave false testimony.
That's right. That's right. Paro probably didn't realize, or well, actually, it was Yosef they were talking to mostly, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Certainly gave false testimony.
Okay, and the Gemara continues. If you're not going to make this distinction between shepherds for their own sheep or for other people's sheep, how would you ever give your animal to a shepherd, right? If you think that every shepherd who looks after other people's sheep engages in theft to graze those animals, then you couldn't give them your sheep because you're giving them the opportunity to sin. Rather, there's a chazaka that a person only. So therefore, that's a support for the idea that the shepherd was only suspected of stealing through grazing his animals if they're his own sheep, but not somebody else's sheep. Because person would only assume liability for the sin if it's for if it's for his own benefit. Okay. All right. So back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said the two people holding the talis. Right. Each one swears. We don't want to have them invoke. If they both swear it's mine, then somebody's lying. We don't want that kind of situation. So we set up this shua that each one says, "I have no less than half." Right. In which case, that could be the case, right? They could be that they both picked up that belongs to both of them. Al Dislay Mishtaba, al Delaysle Mishtaba. So the Gemara says, should he? So how do we construct this shvua? Should it be that I own at least half of it, or should he swear that I have no less than half of it? Right? Why don't we just have him swear directly that I have half of it? So Rav Huna says, actually, that's what we do. That's what the Mishnah means to say. He's going to read the Mishnah that I have a share of this garment, certainly not less than half. So it is kind of a positive and negative view. The name of shvua shekul shli. Why don't we make them take a shvua that each one take a shvua that each one say that the whole thing is mine, and then we would split it. So where it says, because we've been saying all along, we're not going to give it all of it. So we kind of the language of the shvua is aligned with the way we're going to ultimately adjudicate the case. The name shvua shechetishli. Why don't you make a shvua that half of it is mine? Because like he's claiming the whole thing is his. So you're going to make him take a shvua that kind of contradicts his original claim, and we don't want to do that. So that's why we set it up as no less than half, which accords with his actual claim, which is I own the whole thing. So but aren't we? Isn't this the shvua that we make him take? Isn't that also not aligned with his original claim? Because still, like my original claim is I own the whole thing, and now I'm making a shvua I own not less than half. Isn't that kind of not aligned with my original claim? So the Gemara says Diamar kulishli. So what's happening is, each one says when they take the shvua, it's all mine, and I take a shvua divrecha. But according to you, the court that wants to split it, shvua sheishli ba paltu v'chetzia. Okay, like I still maintain my original claim, but I'm going to take the shvua that you're administering to me. Okay. So now the Gemara says, since each one is possessing half of the talis in the first place, why didn't you even need a shvua, right? Just go with the possession is 9/10 of the law thing, right? That each one is holding half, so split it without taking a shvua. Why didn't you need a shvua in the first place? So Rav Yochanan says shvua takanas chachamim. The rabbis established this shvua. To prevent people from, if you had no shvua, then people would go around doing this all the time. They would see somebody holding a something in the street and go and grab onto it and say half of it's mine or it's all mine or whatever, and then they would if that would necessitate splitting it without a shvua, people would do that all the time, right? Then theft, this kind of deception would be rampant. If we establish a shvua, that would scare people off. So if that's what you're saying, that the people involved in these cases are they're being fraudulent, well, if that's the case, why do we trust them to take a shvua? So Gemara answers, so we don't say that just because someone is not careful, not trustworthy in monetary matters, they're still going to be afraid to take a false shvua. Because if you don't say that, then how come the Torah says a partial claim, you have to take a shvua, right? If the guy is, if it's a lie, right, then the shvua might also be a lie, right? So you could say we don't trust. If we're not trusting the guy with his monetary claim, we shouldn't trust him with a shvua either. Our answer is, why? In the case of a modem mixus, it's possible that he's not really denying. He's not trying to get out of paying. He's just trying to get out of paying now. It's like, I can't pay you now, so I'm going to deny it, right? So he's not really untrustworthy. Teda, I can prove that the Amar Avida Baravi Amar of Chisat, Ravidi said, Kofer b'milva kashaleius, somebody who denies a loan, he's still trustworthy as a witness. The pikadon postulatus, but if it's a pikadon, if it's something that, like, I gave you the watch and you deny that I ever gave it to you, then that's possible. So there's a distinction between borrowing and being a shomer, because we're assuming that the borrower, even if he's denying it now, he's just buying time, right? He's not really trying to deny the whole loan, or the to deny the USU. I think he's just trying to buy time. So he's still a trustworthy person when it comes to Avis. So Gemara says maybe not. We have a brisa which of Rami Rachama. So we just saw this a few minutes ago. There's the 4 shomrim. In order for them to take a shvua, there would have to be a partial denial, right? The 4 types of shomrim. Why do we say there's a shvua? We should say because this is not the case of a loan. This is the case of a pikadon. So why don't we say if we don't trust you about the item, then we shouldn't trust you about a shvua either. So in that case, in that case, you could say we're also buying time, because we could be dealing with a case of where it was stolen, which would so you could be thinking, well, I need to buy time because the police are going to catch the thief and then I'll be off the hook. So in the meantime, I'll just deny it altogether. Or inami mashkachnale bagam maisinale, or like if it was a lost animal, it's like I'm still looking for it. So in the meantime, I'm going to deny that it was ever that I ever had it. And in the meantime, and then when I find it, I'll give it back. So if that's the case, it's similar to the lova, to the borrower of money, and we can still trust him when it comes to edus or shvua. So if that's the case, then why do we say in general that someone who denies receiving a pikadon, an object to look after, why do we in general say he's not, like, he can't be a valid witness? You can say that in any case. Like, he could be thinking, I'm just trying to get out of it for now and I'll eventually return it. I'm just buying time until I find it and then I'll give it back. So our answer is no. When do we say that someone who denies that he received a pikadon is an invalid witness and he's not trustworthy? That's when there are witnesses that contradict him. Because the witnesses say that he had that item when he issued his denial, right? That he still had it. So yes, if he's trying to buy time and he doesn't have the item and he's looking for it, so yes, then he's still a trustworthy person. But if witnesses say that at the time that you denied having it, you actually had it, then there's no excuse. Then you're a liar, and we don't believe you to be a witness. Iname or davanaki lebiyade. Or they said, like, either you had it at home or you had it in your pocket, right? So basically, you don't have the excuse that, when I find it, I'll give it back to you. No, because we now know, according to witnesses, that you have it, right? So the fact that you're denying it means that you're stealing it. You're not trustworthy. Ella Gemara says, Ella the Amar Rav Huna. What about Rav Huna's statement? Ashbino so shvua she'ena b'rshus. You make him take a shvua that he doesn't have it, right? That's the shvua of the shomer, right? Name amigo l'chashid almana chashid shvuasa. Here too, we should say, if we suspect somebody of being dishonest monetarily, we would suspect him about a shvua also, So like even someone who yes, even someone who pays back the owner, right? Like, you gave me your car to look after, and the car's gone. So I'll pay you $10,000 for your car, right? But even that person is suspected of not being straightforward in monetary matters, right? Maybe I sold it for 12,000 or something, right? But Rav Huna says he makes that shvua mashbino, so shvua she'ein b'reshutza. So the answer is Hasaname, Mara v'yamar dame yahavnale. There too, we can say that I'm going to pay him up eventually. I just don't have the money right now. Or no, you're saying like at least I'm paying it, right? Like sure, he doesn't have his precious car back, but at least I've paid him the money. So that's why we don't consider him a completely dishonest person. Like at least he paid for it, so we're at least assuming that he's his testimony is going to be. We don't suspect him of giving false testimony. Ravacha said to Ravina, "V'ha'kavra alav d'lo tachma," right? So somebody who does that, right? Who keeps your object and pays you for it, isn't that violating the commandment of lo tachma? Don't covet what somebody else has. Now, clearly, you coveted it, right? Like, sure, you paid for it ultimately, but isn't that a violation of coveting what somebody else has? So that should be enough to make you suspect of being a thief. So the answer is lo tachma le'inshe b'lodame mashmalahu. No, this is because even if that is a violation of lo tachma, but in the common, the ordinary person would think that what is lo tachma about? Stealing, right? Like when I take this and don't give money, if I give money, maybe I'm not really violating lo tachma. So even if you are violating lo tachma, but at least the trustworthiness of the person, as far as being a witness, is not impugned. V'yelaha diamar Rav Nachman mashpinos a shua says. But what about Rav Nachman who says that you do take a shua, the shua that we saw before, that is designed to discourage people from being dishonest? If we suspect him of being dishonest with money, then maybe he should also be suspected about a shvua. And furthermore, what about the case where there's three parties, right? There's the storekeeper, who if there's an employer, an employee, and the employer tells the employee to collect his wages in merchandise from a third party, from the storekeeper, right? And then and then he claims I never got it from the storekeeper. So then both the employee and the storekeeper make a shvua, and they both collect from the employer. Since one of them has to be lying, like either he got the money or he didn't get the money. So if one of them has to be lying, why do we impose a shvua? One of them is going to be taking a false shvua. The two, and furthermore, so that if you have a shomer china, and he says whatever you gave to me was stolen, he has to take three shvuos. One shvuah that I took proper care of it, and I didn't use it in a way that was not permitted while I had it, and shvuah she'ein b'reshutzi, and a shvuah that I no longer have it with me, which is three shvuos. So if we think that maybe this is a guy who's like keeping it for himself, that's theft. So why would we believe his shvua if we suspect him of keeping it for himself? So therefore, we conclude that we don't take this approach. We don't say that just because you're suspected of cheating in business, you can, we say, even if that's the case, even if we suspect you of cheating where there's monetary gain for you, we still trust you as far as a shua and as far as testimony is concerned. And we'll leave it here for today and pick it up here tomorrow.
Well, why do you say in the case of the gan, if we suspect someone of ganav, we're even have this hava, I mean, of shvua. We were learning before in Bava Kama that a ganav is machayev kefil, right? Once we've deemed him as a ganav, where's the whole point of a shvua? He's already chayev kefil, right?
Well, there are certain specifics in which you're chayev kefil. First of all, let me think about this for a second. So first of all, that's only for someone who goes into somebody else's property and steals something, right? These cases of shmira are I don't think are subject to kefil.
But if in the case earlier with the shepherd and he ate two of the cattle, right? Or two of the flock. We learned earlier, if he's in Bava Kama, if he's eating it, he's essentially he's stealing it. So if he's stealing it and you have witnesses to say he ate it, that's stealing it. So is that, I mean, isn't he chayav kefil then?
Would it be subject to kefil? Maybe. Okay. I mean, our Gemara is really just dealing with, with the shvua. Maybe it's not being specific about how much he has to pay back, but we're really more interested in the part that he's denying. And does he have to take a shvua about it? So it could be, it could be that, that your liability is actually kefil for the ones that you admit. But actually,
why wouldn't any ganav then have to take a shvua?
If you're admitting it, there's no kefil. Or wait a minute, which way is it? I'm going to stick with my original story. Then our Gemara is not dealing with kefil. Maybe you're right. Maybe the liability for those sheep maybe is kefil. But what we're more interested in now is, what about the rest of them that you're denying? Do you have to take a shvua?
But do we make every ganav take a shvua? If we bring him into court and say he was a ganav or gazlan, what's the difference? But I mean, do we make him take a shvua?
Well, that's what we're talking about. Modav Metzia. So when you only take a shvua when you're if it's Modav Metzia. So we've seen in Bava Metzia that if you deny the whole thing, unless there's aiding, then there's no shvua required.
So just trying to sort out between a ganav and here and a shvua and so on.
Yeah, it's a good question. But I think the answer is we're not even discussing that part of it. That was a Bava Kama issue. Okay, have a good day, everybody. See you tomorrow.